Then I was informed the Honourable Minister is here with us. So for the next speaker, may I have the honor to invite Her Excellency Ms. Lindiwe Zulu, the Honourable Minister for Social Development of Government of South Africa and Secretary of PPD Board for the presentation. Her Excellency Ms. Lindiwe Zulu is the Minister of Social Development in South Africa. She is a member of the National Executive Committee, NEC, and the chairperson for the African National Congress Subcommittee on International Relations. Ms. Zulu was educated in Swaziland, whereupon she joined the ANC after the 1976 student uprising. She was appointed the head of communication in ANC's Department of Religious Affairs. Ms. Zulu also served as the head of communication in ANC's Uganda office. In 1991, she returned to South Africa and became the head of communication in ANC Women's League. Ms. Zulu was elected to the ANC's team of spokesperson for South Africa's first democratic election in 1994. In 2004, she became the South Africa ambassador to Brazil. Ms. Zulu was appointed special advisor to the President of South Africa on international relations. She also served as the Minister of Small Business Development. Over to you. The floor is yours, Your Excellency.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm connecting on the road, but thank you very much. Good morning to those who it's morning. Good afternoon, good evening to those that it's good afternoon or good evening. Let me start by congratulating PPD, NHC and UNFPA for jointly organizing this technical session on how Southern countries will be able to work together in engaging youth to advocate and innovate programs attaining ICPD during well, we say post-COVID-19, but we are still in COVID. So I don't want to call it post-COVID because we're still suffering and struggling with it. This situates young people at the center of the current global discourse of sustainable development. Young people represent a large proportion of the population in many developing countries, including mine, what we normally call the youth bulge. Yet they are still regularly overlooked in design, implementation, and monitoring of programs. As such, young people are an important stakeholder group for achieving inclusive development. The former Secretary General Ban Ki-moon defined youth as, and I quote, torchbearers of the SDGs who, like generations before them, can engage actively as living architects of their own future and can help achieve goals by 2023 and in fact the full attainment of their rights. It is therefore an imperative on us to acknowledge and commit to the role of young people in sustainable development in the context of the implementation of a 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and related frameworks, in particular the Addis Ababa Action Agenda of the Third International Conference on Financing for Development and the World Programme of Action for Young People. Ladies and gentlemen, the South African Constitution is informed by universal human rights principles and values of non-discrimination that emerge from decades of struggle, together with the progressive agenda, the SDGs, that 1994 Cairo Conference, and lately the SDGs that promises to leave no one behind, including young people. As such, South Africa is committed to South-South cooperation and adolescents and youth issues, in particular adolescent sexual and reproductive health and rights, which includes abortion rights and LGBTQI. And I talk about issues of abortion rights and LGBTQI rights, and these are rights which are still very difficult for many in the world. But as South Africa, we have done the best that we can, that the Constitution covers them, but we go beyond the Constitution. It also includes ensuring that the institutions of governance and institutions in general protect them. Young people's SRHR includes their ability to remain free from unwanted pregnancy And by the way, I might say in the South African context, the issues of unwanted pregnancy still remains a big problem for us. Unsafe abortion, STIs, including HIV and AIDS, and all forms of sexual violence and coercion. The reproductive and sexual health decision they make today will affect the health and well-being of their communities, of their countries for decades to come. Also, the negative health consequences of adolescence can pass from one generation to the next. Therefore, access to quality SRHR for young people is important, as is in the absence of quality services. Young girls resort to backstreet abortions. Unsafe abortions among young people are an important problem. An estimated 4 million girls aged 15 and 19 years undergo unsafe abortions every year in the developing world. Approximately 10% of the maternal mortality among all women are attributable to abortion. Many multilateral and bilateral agencies have strategies focused on young people and their rights, including the major UN agencies, the development banks, regional entities, the EU and African Union, and many bilateral agencies. For some, this has been a focus for many: UNFPA, USAID, UNICEF, while others are only beginning. The global space for young engagement has grown and is becoming a flourishing space. While there is a cause for optimism, inclusive and meaningful youth engagement remains a challenge across the world due to a range of factors such as gender, ethnicity, social norms, political regime, geopolitical context, to name just a few. Ladies and gentlemen, youth are not only the leaders of tomorrow, but the drivers of change. And may I indicate that I don't only just believe in this youth are not only leaders of tomorrow, but the drivers of change. I think that all of us need to make sure that youth take responsibility and also they are engaged and involved in policy development. They are engaged in plans on issues that affect them most. Youth Leadership Institute 2009 defined youth engagement as, and I quote, the active, empowered, and internal partnership with youth as stakeholders, problem solvers, and change agents in their communities. Prioritizing the participation of youth is based on the premise that youth have the right to express themselves, be involved in decisions that affect their lives, and be active participants rather than just beneficiaries. Without youth participation, the danger is that youth can be used merely as tokens of youth participation and included only as perfunctory manner. Tokenism and half-hearted initiatives are not only unsuccessful, but can be detrimental to the youth involvement. UNICEF has advocated for a paradigm shift where we move from policymakers at the center of adolescent youth engagement, ad hoc and tokenism activities to systematic and structured advocacy programming, from developing policies and programs for young people to developing policies and programs with them, from representing young people with our expert opinion to facilitating young people telling them the stories, from lack of documentation of process and impact. However, in many developing countries, there are daunting challenges where youth are historically been excluded from policy programs and services. For these initiatives to the authentic and response, young people must be involved in designing, implementing, and evaluating them. Young people are the experts of their own experience. Young people are generally more effective than adults at understanding their needs and their peers and knowing how to reach and engage them. Also, key challenges to engaging young people across the board is exclusivity, wherein only the most privileged young people have opportunities to participate. This creates a lack of representativeness in which young people from disadvantaged groups have few or no opportunities to provide input and are always excluded. May I, Chairperson, in conclusion, hope that this conference will reinvigorate and expand meaningful youth engagement and leadership to push forward the ICPD agenda on all fronts. We need to share experiences and ideas of the innovative ways of engaging young people more effectively. May I also at this point indicate that as South Africa, a new nation, I call us a new nation because we are only just 26 years of democracy, and we are struggling in many ways in terms of poverty, unemployment, and inequality, and young people are negatively affected by this. But most importantly, we as South Africa are fighting a scourge of gender-based violence and femicide. And this week, our president announced a mourning period for those that have lost their loved ones, either through COVID-19 pandemic, or those that have lost their lives because of gender-based violence, and that is the killing of women and children. We have launched the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence and femicide, and we in South Africa are doing everything we can to make sure that it's not just the 16 days of activism, but the 365 days where we as a government, private sector, NGOs and NPOs, we create a conducive environment for young people and young girls and women in particular to be able to take care of their lives and thrive. Gender-based violence, by the way, is not only just a problem in South Africa, but gender-based violence, the undermining of women, the lack of opportunities for women is a global phenomenon which I think all of us must really take up very seriously and ensure that our women also benefit from all programs that are there to changing lives of people. Thank you very much.